Tell me about when you were a girl in Iron Mountain.
When I was a girl in Iron Mountain, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of girlfriends. We always had a lot of friends. We had hills across the street, lakes a couple blocks away, and we liked to ski. We liked to skate. We did it all.
Didn't you think it was too cold up there?
No.
What's the coldest it ever was that you remember?
I don't really remember.
20 below zero?
Well, I'm sure it was.
Uh-huh. It just didn't bother you, did it?
No.
It was just life.
We just had scarves and helmets, and away we went.
So what do you remember about high school?
High school was a wonderful time.
You were a cheerleader.
Yes, I was a cheerleader, but prior to that, we went to a place called Holt School, which was a castle. And we were there only for a year, and then it was closed down, and we had classes closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we were cheerleaders for 2 years. We had a lot of fun, had a lot of good friends.
Did you take the bus every day?
No.
How did you get to school?
Walked.
You walked? That was a long walk all the way to that high school.
No, it wasn't.
What?
Up to Holt School it was, but it wasn't a long walk to...
So in the wintertime when it was so cold, you walked up there?
Absolutely walked. Well, we went from my house where I lived, and we walked up to school.
But how long did it took a pretty long
Probably
time?
15 minutes.
Oh, well, I must not know. I must not remember.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what else do you remember about high school? What about the...
Had lots of boyfriends, lots of fun.
What do you remember about the war?
I remember the guys going to war. We had 12th grade, and we had graduation, and then we had June graduation. And the fellows went to war when they graduated, or even before. And so it left us gals with no dates for the prom.
Did a lot of guys get killed?
You know, there was some, sadly enough, but there weren't a lot.
And then most of them came
My
back?
brother came home.
Yeah?
He was
Earl?
Earl, huh? He was in the armed forces, but they came home kind of a wreck, because it was a very nervous situation.
Pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty tough. Well, after the war, then you did what? Or after, you were out of high school.
When I got out of high school, then I had a job with Michigan Bell Telephone Company.
And then you met Dad after the war. You
Mm-hmm.
came back to Iron Mountain. You didn't know him? You only lived 3 blocks apart.
I knew him.
You know of him?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I was a little kid, and he was a boy up on top of the hill, and little devils,
Yeah, you didn't really know him that well.
No, just knew who he was.
And then how did you actually meet him? I mean, where
Well,
was that? A bar? Was it at a bar or at a
he
dance?
Was looking, he was looking for a date, and somebody told him I was available. I imagine that's what it was.
Okay. And he just walked up to you and asked you
Well,
for a
he
date?
called me
Well, that's almost the
on
same.
the telephone.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I went out with him.
And there he
And
goes.
we had a good time, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
off you went.
Off we went.
And then how long did you date him before you got married and moved to Milwaukee?
I think it was a year and a half.
And then you got married, and then that's when you moved to Milwaukee?
Right.
And then shortly thereafter?
He was still going to college when we were married.
He had already started college when you were dating?
Yes.
And that was in Milwaukee.
And,
so he must have been driving back and forth from Milwaukee to Iron Mountain.
Right.
Wow.
It was a long ride then.
Back then, yeah, it's a long ride now. It was about 100 miles.
Yeah, that's not far though.
Well, it was a long time ago. It was a long ride
Yeah.
on a 2-lane road at
Yeah.
40, 50 miles an
Right,
hour.
then it was a long road.
Yeah, now it's all expressway.
Right.
All right, so you got to Iron Mountain, or you got to Milwaukee, and then you had a little apartment. Tell me about that apartment.
Oh,
the
it
tiny
was-
little in the grocery store or something.
It was, that one. That's when that's after I had the baby.
Right.
But prior to that, we had a nice apartment. It was a one room, and you had a pull-down bed,
Mm-hmm.
and then a table, and worked out well.
And then you went to the grocery store, behind the grocery store?
Right.
And then you went to Mrs. Larson's house.
That was,
Mrs. Larson's house, remember?
yeah.
And then I went to elementary school.
Mrs. Larson's house. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, that's when you started kindergarten.
Right.
And I wanted to go with you. And you, oh, no, I'll go myself.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually do remember that. I actually do remember that. And then I remember like up on the roof. Tell about the roof.
You were up on the roof, and
But whose roof? A lady's roof. Some
a lady's roof on the next block.
by the school. Yeah.
Yes, and she called the police because you've been doing it, I think, quite a while. You
Yeah.
climbed the tree, then you got out of the roof. So the police came to get you, and they brought you home.
Right. What did I think of that?
You were just, I was there. I was in there. I saw the police. I was with them. You know, you were happy.
Yeah, I remember that pretty good.
Hmm.
The well, what? So then, is there anything else you remember about when I was a little boy?
Well, I remember the time you had this nice little boy that you played with next door at Mrs. Larson's house. And I guess you bit him one day. And she wouldn't let you go play with him anymore.
Well, then Johnny came along when I was 4. So what was?
We were still at that house.
Right. We were still at Mrs. Larson's house.
Hmm.
And then what? Well, so what do you remember about Johnny? How'd that go?
I remember Johnny as just being a nice little boy.
Yeah. Well, he was.
Maybe, I don't know, I just remember him as being a nice little boy. And I remember like Joey needed help, and I went to John and I said, John, would you help Joe with his classes? And he said, yes, of course, Joe had already been taking classes and so forth, but, and he did. I don't know if he helped him or not, but.
And you remember anything else about John when he was in high school or anything else?
Well, he was on, he did this, you know what he did,
Debate.
debating,
Yeah.
I think he was kind of on a second level of that part, but,
All right, we'll move on to Jim. What about Jim? What was Jim like when he was a little boy?
Jim was always very outgoing. And I remember one time taking him to the store. I can't remember if it was a store or a library. And that's about the only thing I remember. However, he always had a lot of friends, and he's always coming and going. And
Just like now, he's still busy.
yeah, it's the same kid. He has the same friends.
Yeah, yes.
Isn't that interesting?
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Joe. Move on to Joe. So Joey was a baby, and then he got sick.
Yeah, he was sick.
Spinal
And
meningitis.
it took him a year. I have a picture of him, and he is not altogether. And so when he was 2 years old, he was starting to get bitter. The mistake I made there was letting him go to kindergarten when he was 5 years old because he wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
But little kid next door was going.
Okay. Well, so why was that a mistake? He didn't.
Because he wasn't ready.
How did that hurt him? He just went there and did he
Yeah,
get
but
frustrated?
if he had another year of
Yeah.
growing up, he
Yeah.
probably would have done better,
I see.
I think. But
He did okay. And then he was a good golfer. Joey.
he was a
had-
nice golfer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then he went to the Navy.
Mhm.
And all right, well, moving on. How about Pete? What do you remember about Peter? He was a devil. I remember Peter being a devil when he was
Was-
6, 7, 8, 10. Remember, he always was getting into things. Remember the time he
You don't?
he had the remember he lit the aerosol can. He had the blowtorch. He turned and he burned himself. Don't you remember that?
Was it up in the
It
attic?
was up at Stony Brook. He was up there and he lit a aerosol can. You don't remember that?
I kind of don't remember it.
Okay.
Were they up in the attic doing it?
No, he's up at Stony Brook Rec Center.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't remember
This
that
is your
one.
story.
Mhm.
The what else do you remember about him?
Peter was very independent, and he played with the Woolly kids.
Yeah, you remember the Willie kids. They
I
weren't
remember
the best,
the
they
Wool-
weren't the best choice.
No, but he evidently was getting what he wanted
They were across the street.
across the street,
Yeah.
and there was a lake that they went to, and
I think it was a creek.
creek. Yeah, I never quite knew where that creek was. I should have found out.
It was called Buck Creek. Yeah, it was up near Stony Brook,
Yeah,
by Stony Brook Rec Center. That's where it was.
and then he was going to school, and he decided he didn't want to go to that school anymore, and so we put him in good
And
counsel.
And do you know why he didn't want to go there?
There were some kids that he was in. He absolutely had some kids that were his friends, and he didn't really want to chat with them. But
They weren't really good friends. Wasn't there something about drugs or something? He wanted to get out of there because he was getting in the.
well, there was
with the
some
wrong
reason
crowd or
why
something.
he didn't want to be with these kids.
Yeah, I think it was drugs.
And so he asked to go to good counsel.
So that was a good move. And then he went to Maryland.
Yeah,
He did okay at Maryland.
right,
He graduated.
right.
Yeah. Okay, Mom, we're back here. You're going to show us some pictures of your golf career. Just hold them up to the camera. Hold them up to the camera.
Oh no.
Yeah. There, hold them up to the camera. There you go. Now, so how many victories do you think you actually had? 10?
Oh, I had more than that. I was at the I was over at the golf course for,
30 years?
30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Let it ring. Okay, so that's a lot. So you want to you were one of the top dogs out there, weren't you?
Well, at that time I was. I wasn't that great. I was just consistent. I could go to a tournament and play the same way as I played when I wasn't in a tournament.
Right.
Most people, they get to a tournament and they get all shook up.
Yeah. And you were a competitor.
Oh.
And you were a good competitor. Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
cool. That's cool. Well, what else do you remember about Manor? Your days in Manor Club?
Oh, they're all great. We didn't really socialize a lot there. Dad wasn't one who wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there and did a lot of golfing, and he would go out at night and golf.
After
You
work.
remember after work?
Yeah, 9
In
holes.
practice.
That was pretty nice. They
Yeah, it was-
walk out a couple of holes. And
Yes,
Pretty nice life.
And yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoyed it. I mean, he did. He had,
Yeah.
But if he wasn't good, he wasn't happy.
Well, I got it from my dad. Well, what do you remember about Dad? I mean, the good times. What were your best times with Dad?
I think the trips that we took were probably the best times
Mm-hmm.
because he worked so much.
You guys used to argue on the golf course.
Yeah, I stayed away from him.
He was tough to play golf with.
He really was. I can't understand him really.
Why you're out there to have fun, and then he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
He'd get a bad shot and he'd be so upset. And he'd get a lot of bad shots.
Yeah, he was an okay golfer, but he wasn't that good.
Yeah, he was all right.
He was an okay golfer.
Yeah.
He played okay. Well, about our family, if you were to think about the family all in one, what do you think about when you think about our family?
Uh-huh.
You know,
I
just
think,
a few words about the general family, the group, the whole thing.
The group. Well, growing up, I thought we were all wonderful. I was really proud of my family.
Oh, you should be.
And I tried to be a good mother. I don't know if I was or not, but you do the best. You do whatever you know how to do.
Uh-huh.
And But I think you've all kind of gone astray a little bit.
Well, but that probably happens in a lot of families.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've had our bumps. There's no doubt about that. And some are worse than others. But when you really think about it, if you overlook the bumps, all of us, none of us have, been in terrible trouble. We all love our families. We're all reasonably good men. We've made mistakes, and which we're all sorry for and try not to do again. But everybody makes mistakes,
Right.
And so we haven't had a smooth ride all the time. But nobody's a bad man. There's no really bad people there.
Oh, absolutely not.
Everybody is
Yeah.
pretty good.
And it's amazing how different everybody is.
Everybody's so different, and that's probably because of the age difference. And also, you got to remember, we grew up in different cities. I mean, I grew up in 5 different cities.
Right.
Now Jimmy didn't. Jimmy mostly, was little, and Joey and Peter were all sort of Marylanders. But me and John, bumped around a little bit in Milwaukee and Illinois and Ohio and New Jersey and so.
What was the second town that we lived in?
Elgin,
Uh-huh.
Milwaukee, Elgin, New Jersey, Akron, and Wheaton.
I kept forgetting Elgin.
Well, you were only there for a year.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really wasn't very long.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a nice little town.
Well, so what do you have to tell the family on the video? What are your final words to the family? What do you want to leave us with? What are the thoughts you want to leave us with?
I hope you all get along.
That's not going to happen. So.
I hope you get together once in a while.
And what do you want to tell your great-great-great-grandson 50 years from now when he watches this?
I don't think he'll be watching it.
But if he is, what will you tell him?
I don't know what I want to tell him. Live a good life. Be kind to your friends. Love your parents.
That's not bad. Hopefully he already knows that, but it's good to be reminded by his great-great-great-grandmother. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, Mom. You're now in history.